This is a Minecraft song, okay? Or not song, but story. I am on drugs. Don't worry. Sorry. It's called alcohol.
Drugs is bad.
I know they're bad.
Then get out of it.
I'm bad too. Why do I need to get out of something I am?
Just let him read the story.
Okay, that's normal then.
It's normal again? Okay, anyways. Alright. Okay. The moment he realized that the strong scent in the air was actually alcohol, he immediately knew that something was up. What? Okay, you know, if you're gonna interrupt me, no stories.
But I'm being teabagged.
Go, just shut up and enjoy the story.
It's a lovely story of alcohol and accidents and experiments. It's lovely. I think it should be a children's book, honestly.
Garfarf, you're not helping.
Yes, I am.
Raise a dream model. What?
You're teabagging me.
Just let him read the story, please.
Okay. I think I heard something very interesting. Alright. Where was I? The moment he realized that the strong scent in the air was actually alcohol, he immediately knew something was up. It wasn't that he didn't drink, or nor had he done something, had something against it, but it was just the entire house smelled like alcohol. He was worried. Captain Sparkles frowned. Who in the nether could be drinking anyways? It wasn't that he actually lived with anyone, except Ant Venom, because his house burnt down. With the thought in mind, Sparkles walked up to the fridge in the kitchen, flung the fridge door open. Sure enough, the bottles of wine that were supposed to be at the bottom of the fridge were gone. A few days ago, Ant had come to him saying that something about his house being burnt down. He attempted to build what was it again? An incinerator? Then there was a part about the fire from the incinerator spreading along the wooden flooring and his house catching on fire, and then everything flammable caught on fire as well. Apparently, the house fire even burnt down the tower that he had built next to his house, as Ant had said something about reaching cloud level in the end. He concluded the fire with a statement claiming that lava is safer than fire. Somehow said Minecrafter was staying with him until he had rebuilt his house. But did the black-eyed, golden apple-loving Minecrafter drink? He wasn't quite sure about that. Given that the Minecrafter was probably more interested in searching for golden apples or killing cows than just hanging back and drinking wine, but he was beginning to second that now. After all, there wasn't anyone else in his house now. He had just had to figure out if he was a heavy drinker or not. Which he probably is. If he actually drank from all those bottles he took, I have a bad feeling about this, he thought as he walked out of the kitchen into the living room and immediately saw the black-haired Minecrafter sprawled out on the comfy-looking couch on the far side of the room. Sparkle's eyes widened as he just stared at the drunken Minecrafter for a while, also noticing the 3 or 4 bottles now empty lying on the floor next to the couch. Some chests were sitting on their sides, its contents spilled across the floor, as well as some of the paintings which were now hung on the wooden floor. Oh my notch, Ant, you're so wasted, Captain Sparkles said as he walked over to the other Minecrafter and holding him up in sitting position by his shoulders, shaking him gently and awaiting for a response or reaction from the other Minecrafter. Said Minecrafter blinked dumbly at him and said, "Oh, hey, Sparkles. Is that like a thing?" His speech was quite slurred, with a large grin splattered across his face. "No, Ant, you're drunk. Very drunk," Sparkles said with a sigh. "Nuh-uh," Ant argued. "I'm not drunk." Sparkles rolled his eyes. Not that the other could see it anyways because of his shades, and said, "Right, try walking." He let go of the other's shoulders and got him off the couch and observed the other as he swung his legs over the couch and collapsed into the heap of the floor as he attempted to lift himself from the furniture. and he sighed and tried not to laugh as the other attempted to stand and fell over again. What made you think of getting drunk was such a good idea? Sparkles questioned as he lifted Ant onto his feet by his arms to support the Minecrafter who currently lacked the ability to stand. Ant Venom instinctively threw his arm over the other's shoulders and he held up by the other. I don't know. I can't remember, Ant said as his left hand reached for something to hold on to, which was the other's black jacket, and gripped the rough leather with his fingers. For someone who's so drunk, you answers make you seem like you're sober, Sparkles said as he started to carry the other into the bedroom, being careful not to step to the other's paintings, over the paintings or the items scattered across the floor. It was quite late already, and seeing that he couldn't really have a conversation, or at least a serious one, with the other, he might as well let him sleep until the buzz wore off. You jelly, Ant giggled as they entered the room, his smile only widening. Yes, I'm so jelly, Sparkles said sarcastically, shaking his head. Yep, there's no way he could have even had a normal conversation with him. And he all but carefully pushed the drunken Minecrafter onto the bed and said, Now stay here and don't do anything stupid. I have to clean the mess you made, and I'll whoop your ass once you're sober. He turned to leave, and he was stopped by hands grabbing his sleeve. What now? Sparkles said as he turned to the other Minecrafter, not even bothering to hide his annoyance. Ant's face colored, and he let out what the other supposed was a nervous chuckle before saying, Well, can you sleep with me? Sparkles stared at him. I mean, I have nightmares, and they're scary, and yeah. Sparkles continued to stare at Ant. Damn, he thought. I know he's drunk, but this is ridiculous. Do I have a choice? He asked. Please? Well, fine, but just to shut you up, Sparkles said finally as he switched the lights. Okay, whatever, it just requires a bunch of Minecraft shit. Okay, he switched the lights off and popped down beside the other Minecrafter on the bed, who wasted no time in swatting off the shades off his face with a flick of the wrist. Nobody wears shades when they sleep, silly. Whatever, get off me, Sparkles said, more annoyed that the other had so conveniently seated himself on his abdomen. Now, he added, to make his point clear, but instead of doing so, the other shifted uncomfortably and said, You want my shirt off? The Minecrafter left eyelid twitched. That's not what I meant, Ant. Then, what do you want off? The drunken Minecrafter said, his cheeks flushed red. He was still fidgeting on the other's stomach. Sparkles unconsciously licked his suddenly dry lips and instinctively regretted it. When the other tilted his head curiously and leaned in closer. The other's face is almost touching. Freaking Notch, Ant. What in Notch's name are you doing? He asked, his hands already twitching restlessly. Sorry, getting tired here. Okay. Sure, he had been with the other Minecrafter before, but he had only done so with the other's permission. Right now, said Minecrafter was drunk, whatever. He was so drunk that he probably didn't even know what he was doing. And if Ant wakes up aching, well, he wouldn't have a good enough explanation to convince the other of what happened otherwise. But when an unintentional kiss was placed on the edge of his lips and the other Minecrafter closed the gap in between them, he completely lost it. To nether with it, he thought, as his hands grabbed the other's waist and flipped the two over so that the other Minecrafter was now laying on his back before returning the kiss forcefully. He ignored the surprised yelp that emitted from the other, and was quite expecting it. Then when he tasted the alcohol on his tongue, when his tongue entered the other's mouth, completely dominating the Minecrafter who was withering below him, whimpering lately, he felt his hands grabbing the other's front of his jacket, pulling and tugging at it clumsily, as if he was trying to take the clothes off. Encouraged by the act, he broke the kiss smirking, and he flung the other's shirt over his head, tossing it aside carelessly, and the other did no more than just fidget at his clothing as his clothing was removed, and the alcohol clearly affecting his mind. Sparkles hummed thoughtfully and decided to take advantage of Ant's vulnerable form, yanking the last remaining bits of his clothing off, and watched as the other's face colored but again. from the sudden intrusion, and he leaned over and bit the other's soft skin. When he heard Ant whine at what was discomfort, Sparkles dared himself to insert a third finger and push deep into the other, and was somewhat relieved that Ant didn't react too badly to it. He was shaking it lightly, but at least his body wasn't tense, as it would have been if he was sober. He could feel the other Minecrafter slowly relax at his frame still, and he pulled his fingers out when he felt the entry of the other Minecrafter wouldn't cause too much pain. The alcohol helping both males get a great deal of major problems with the black-eyed Minecrafter. I don't even know what the fuck he's trying to explain here anymore. Anyways, okay.
Oh.
What? No, I was drinking water.
Never mind.
What you want to say something before I continue?
Nah.
Okay. Anyways. What did I say again? Okay. He was always so tense despite his partner's efforts trying to help him relax. Sparkles watched as Ant cried out and clawed at the sheets below, as if trying to tear the dedicated fabric apart. When he penetrated him, he was instantly stilled. Not wanting to actually hurt the Minecrafter underneath him, he moved slowly at first, closely observing the other's reaction, as the Minecrafter was probably too drunk to even protest, probably, if he felt pain. He'll have to be careful if he didn't want to accidentally break the other. He only dared to thrust harder into the other when he heard his moan of contempt. He had never screwed the other when the other had an excessive amounts of alcohol clouding his mind before. It was quite awkward since the other Minecrafter would have a lot to say during these sessions. But it wasn't all bad. For one, it saved him some time to have to reply to Minecrafter's snappy comments. He smirked when the other Minecrafter cried out. His eyes squeezed shut as he threw his head to the side, and the dominant Minecrafter grabbed the other's waist, trying to pull him even closer, if even possible. When the other climaxed and came shivering, but he only pounded into the other Minecrafter all the harder and faster, stopping only when he released himself deep inside of the other. He felt the Minecrafter gasp at the sensation and blinked when Sparkles pulled out, as if he trying to process the event that had just happened. The Minecrafter tried to sit up with one arm around his shoulder, pulled him back onto the bed, and the two Minecrafters shared, and the two fell asleep shortly after. The first thing Ant registered when he stirred awake was that he had a horrible headache, and his stomach twisted painfully. He shifted into a more comfortable position as he tried to remember what had happened, but his mind didn't seem to want to cooperate with him as it continued to throb painfully. Sparkle's eyes snapped open, and he heard a light groan. Spending months in the wild caused him to be alert even during sleep. He loosened his hold of the other's shoulder when he felt his twist and turn, and it took him a while to remember the events that had taken place that night. Crap, Sparkles said to Ant as Ant sat up. Oh my god, hold on. Still groaning and clutching his head. Ant, are you okay? Ant heard the question, but he was too concentrated on why his head hurt so much he didn't reply, causing the other to bite his lower lip nervously. His stomach twisted again, and he suddenly realized that he had to throw up. He shot out over the bed and grabbed the nearest thing that he could use as a bin, aka a conveniently placed bucket, and emptied his stomach of its contents. Sparkle winced in sympathy at the sight of that he had forgotten where he was. He looked around the room quickly, locating his clothes somewhere on the floor and redressing himself. Seeing that as the other wasn't quite done with throwing up, he decided to pick up his clothes too. When Ant finally stopped throwing up, he did realize that he was naked, like the day he was born, and that he wasn't the only occupation in the room. He turned around to face the other Minecrafter, eyes widening when he saw that the other had his clothing. He stared at Sparkles, expecting an answer from the other male. Sparkles shifted uncomfortably. Crap. Yeah, he was in deep shit right now. You were drunk and you wanted me to sleep with you, so he mentally slapped himself for that. And Ant's face flushed red at his words. But I don't. Ant started, but suddenly stopped when he realized that meant with the help of some pieces of blurry memories. You you sick. Ant trailed off, leaving his sentence unfinished due to not being able to feel words. Sparkles wasn't sure if it was out of anger or embarrassment. You sick bastard! Sparkles winced. So much for that other not being able to form words. Now I won't be able to frickin' walk without limping thanks to you, Ant half said, half yelled as he snatched his clothes from the other, redressing himself as quickly as possible. It isn't that bad, Sparkles said, and dared himself to be teasing. At least we can't cuddle and get out. But, Notch, damn it, get out now! And Sparkles nearly threw himself into the hallway and slammed the door shut before the other Minecrafter could grab the nearest object and throw it at him. Okay, so maybe screwing the other while he was drunk has its downsides. He made a mental note to leave the other to himself for the rest of the day before attempting to talk to him as he headed to the living room to clean up the mess left over from the last night. But he wouldn't mind if Ant happened to get himself drunk again. Meanwhile, back in the bedroom, Ant leaned against the wall, holding his head there for less pain now, thankfully, compared to roughly 3 minutes ago. But it was still enough to cause him to wince at each throb. He blushed terribly when he started to remember what had happened last night. After he accidentally gotten himself drunk, Sparkles had fucked him, literally, into the bed. He winced as he stood up and attempted to walk when the pain shot from the center area. Okay, the certain area. Okay. Which just more proof that the events had taken place last night. He scowled at the thought. Was he really so drunk that he couldn't tell the other to stop? Now his whole body ached, and he knew that he was probably right when he said that he wouldn't be able to walk without limping. Screw beer, wine, and parties, he thought. I am never touching a single drop of alcohol ever again. The end.
That was really long.